I remember them putting me, it kind of looked like a jail jumpsuit. And they put me in a room. They left the curtain open. They told me I couldn't get out of the bed, could not use the phone. If I was hungry, I could ask them for food and they would bring it to me. They told my husband he couldn't leave. And I remember asking my husband, I was like, I'm not like a fucking criminal. What's going on?
Hey there, my name is Sean, and this is Suicide Noted. On this podcast, I talk with suicide attempt survivors so that we can hear their stories. Every year around the world, millions of people try to take their own lives, and we almost never talk about it. We certainly don't talk about it enough. And when we do, many of us, including me, are not very good at it. So one of my goals with this podcast is to have more conversations and hopefully better conversations with attempt survivors. Why? Well, as many of you know, to help more people in more places feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. If you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to talk, please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com, on Facebook or Twitter, @suicidenoted. You can check the show notes to find an additional way to reach out to us via recorded message. There's also more information there about how to sponsor the podcast, some of our programs and presentations, our group on Signal, check that out, and our membership. We would love your support. And specifically, what we want to do in the next few months is transcribe each and every episode. We think it'll help us reach more people in more places to help them feel a little less shitty and a little less alone. Yes. Now, we are talking about suicide on this podcast, as the title suggests, as we do every week. And we know it may not be a good fit for everybody, so please take that into account before or as you listen. But I do hope you listen, because there is so much to learn. Today, I am talking with Jasmine. Jasmine lives in the state of Washington, and she is a suicide attempt survivor. Hey, Jasmine.
All right, we got another one in their car. This is like every third person is in their car. What are you escaping from? What's happening?
I had to go pick up my kids.
Oh, we're doing this while you're driving?
Yeah. I'm literally like 3 minutes from home.
Oh, I mean, are they in the car already?
Yeah, they're in the car right now.
Well, I'm talking to Jasmine. Her kids are there, and Jasmine, you're going to talk about this subject in front of your kids?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't hide anything from my kids. I'm very open with them.
Real quick, I don't need to see them because this is a podcast, but please say hello so our audience can hear you kids one at a time.
Hello.
What's your name?
Ethan.
Hi, hey, Ethan. Next.
Kaden. My little one hiding. That's Aaliyah.
Okay. Who's in the back?
Brooklyn.
Oh, all right. You got some cool names in that family. You're traveling in a car. I'm not here to tell you how to live your lives, but I'm glad to see you wearing your seatbelts.
You are in the state of Washington.
We're not going to ask for addresses or anything, but are you in an urban area or a more rural or suburban area?
I would say rural. I'm like 45 minutes north of Seattle.
Isn't that like the North Pole? Are your 4 at this moment well-behaved children okay living so close to the North Pole?
Yes, most definitely.
Okay. Now, and your kids also know you in a way, in a very unique way, because you're their mother. But it is rather badass that you not only went through what you went through, which we'll talk about, but then are willing to talk about it with not only me, but at some point, thousands of people around the world will hear it. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. I mean, I want to share my story, and I want to be a light in the darkness for other people that have gone through the same thing, that are struggling and feel no way out.
Yeah, that's the darkness. That's what you just said is the darkness.
Yeah, and I know what it feels like to be there and not feel like you have a way out, and just wanting to end the pain. Yeah,
and you tried to do that, actually.
I have, yes.
How many times?
3 times.
Just before we get started, though, should we wait until you're home? Because it's incredible to me, admirable, that all 4 kids, and none of them are super young, I get that, but nonetheless are like open to hearing this conversation and know everything. I got to tell you, I think that's not a common thing.
I'm a single mom, so I don't want to There are some things that I try to shelter them from, but when it comes to mental health, that is one that I am very, very open with them. Me being a single mom and the circumstances that they have went through over the past 2 years.
We're talking split ups and COVID and other stuff in the last 2 years.
Yeah, a divorce after 15 years. So it's a lot.
Does Brooklyn realize that I lived in her borough?
No. And the funny thing is, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with New York for some odd reason.
Well, no, it's not an odd reason. It's because it's an amazing city. That's why. With all due respect, it's a little better than the North Pole. Go on.
And I loved the name Brooklyn. You know what? That's what I'm naming my daughter.
Jasmine.
Yes.
Technically in the United States, but pretty close to the North Pole.
Yes.
So you might know Santa Claus. Or Ms. Claus. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, fine. 3 suicide attempts, an especially rocky last 2 years. 4 kids, probably a minivan. Oh, really? Can I be wrong with that? Duh. Of course she has a minivan.
I do.
We don't need to give any physical descriptions because it's a podcast. And I love people using their imaginations. And that's even more fun. So let me ask you this question, Jasmine. We exchanged emails a couple times, as is often the case. And there's always a handful of questions that I tend to, one of a few questions that I tend to start these conversations off, and then they sort of go in different ways. Did someone tell you about the podcast, or did you put the word suicide somewhere to find it?
So I actually was looking for podcasts that were more tailored to suicide survivors, and yours had popped up, and I listened to the first episode to see what it was like. And I was like, okay, this is really good. And I have been hooked.
When you say the first, do you remember? Because I don't know how your podcast platform works. Do you mean podcast number 1 or the most recent one?
Podcast number 1.
Because I will tell you, I have gotten better at this shit and my editing has gotten better. So if you lasted through that first one, who I believe is Courtney in Louisiana, I remember.
Yes.
All right. And you were hooked. So you've been listening. When was that about? How long ago?
It was like 3 weeks ago. And I've listened in the morning when I get up and get ready for work. And then I listen to it when I'm driving. And then I'll listen to it on my lunch break and then on the way home.
And any of your kids ever like, Ma? You might want to relax and listen to a little, Drake. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, sometimes they do. And I'm like, you guys, it is one of the best podcasts that I have ever listened to. And that is the 100% truth.
But do they think you're weird for that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they think I'm weird in general. So it's okay.
Good. Weird, good moms are good and weird moms. You find the podcast, you listen to it regularly. Now, but there's a bigger question here. Most people don't put a word like that anywhere.
Right.
But podcast, Google, YouTube, wherever else. Why would you do that?
At that point in time, I was just really struggling with suicidal thoughts. And, I couldn't get into my therapist. She's been booked for months. I mean, I could reach out to my family and stuff, but they don't understand. They're there for me 100%, but they don't understand. Got
to call you on something. When you say they're for you 100%, but that's not 100%. Sorry, family. Not quite. 99 point something I'll accept.
Okay, I'll say my parents are there 100%. My sister's not so much because they have never dealt with what I'm going through and had the same thoughts or even attempts.
So obviously would make it very difficult. Now, by the way, I've never been pregnant, but I can empathize with the pain of pregnancy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's TMI, but hey, but yes, you are correct. There's a disconnect that makes it it's very difficult to bridge.
Right.
All right. So the sisters aren't 100. Sorry, sisters. The parents were giving 100, which is a very high score. And you put the word suicide in because you're going through a hard time and you don't have a lot of people, or at least them, to talk to. And shockingly, though not shockingly, your therapist isn't around. That's more of a systemic thing, I assume, than necessarily your therapist being a jerk.
Oh, yeah.
So is it desperation?
Yeah, I think it was desperation. And I just wanted to hear attempt survivors' stories and how they came out on the other side and what helped them get through in their darkest moments. Okay.
What helped them get through? Some of them are still in very dark moments.
Yeah.
If you hear enough podcasts, you'll see some are fine, quote unquote, some aren't. and we've lost for sure at least one. But
That
when
was
you
on the podcast.
yeah, well, when you talk to 150 people who are suicide attempt survivors, and some it's happening now, and some was like in the past and they're in a different place, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And I know my role, and some people don't always agree with it, but my role is to try to engage, create the space, put the podcast out. Your choice is your choice.
Yeah.
I don't want it to happen, but sometimes it's going to happen. That's my little rant for the moment. Okay. I don't need to know your age because I've learned that's not a polite thing, but you got 4 kids. You were married for 15 years. I can do general math. You're probably younger than me. Are you going to make it to 50?
100%. Yes.
Are you going to die a natural, quote, natural death?
Yes. And I hope it's in my sleep and I don't feel any pain.
But now I'm a little pissed that I know that you're younger than me. You're using this word a lot. 100%. There are people I talk to after one or more attempts. They're like, you know what? If you would ask me another time in my life, I would have been like, definitely would never kill myself, but I tried once. So now I'll say 95% or 50. So it's interesting to hear multiple suicide attempts, but you're confident.
Yeah. I mean, I look at the 4 faces that I brought into this world for them. 1, I could never put them through that pain.
Okay.
And 2, like they are my reason for breathing and waking up every day. And 2, I would never want them to go be with their dad.
Oh, all right. That's another part of the conversation. Okay.
Yeah. And like, they are my world.
So without them?
Without them, I could say that I would not be here.
Okay. So your parents are involved in their lives?
Yep. 100%. My mom, so I work full time. My mom works full time. When my mom gets off work, because I'm still at work, she comes to my house and stays with my kids till I get home. So my parents are very, very involved with their grandkids. And I'm so thankful for that.
What kind of work do you do?
I work in healthcare. I'm a customer service rep.
Okay.
So to hear that you have your parents around to help is amazing. I gotta say fucking amazing because it's my podcast, so I can curse. You can do whatever I want until they tell me I can't. This is always challenging. We don't always have to start with the attempts, but there's starting points. You had 2 questions. Ready? How old were you when you first thought of suicide as an option? And then 2, how old were you when you first attempted?
So when I first thought of suicide as an option, my third, I think he was 6 months.
So you were an adult.
Yeah. So I was 20. I had him when I was 21. My husband at the time, now ex-husband, we were split up. He did not attend the birth of my son. He was, in and out of the picture. And I was struggling really, really bad with postpartum. I didn't know what it was. Yeah. And with my twins, I didn't have postpartum. And I was living with my parents. So I had my mom 24/7. My third son came along, my ex-husband. We were young, stupid. He couldn't handle it. So he's like, fuck this. I'm leaving. Moves to the other side of the mountains. Yeah. So we have Western Washington, where it's cold and rainy. Mm-hmm. And then we have Eastern Washington, which is the other side of the mountains, where it's nice and hot all the time.
Well, which one are you at? We don't know.
I am on the rainy side.
But you're like on the slopes probably.
Yeah, I'm closest to the North Pole. Yeah.
Got to just make it really hard. So just to be clear, from birth to 20, and I'm not trying to simplify or generalize, but I have no choice. You're not ideating and thinking about killing yourself.
Correct. I mean, I would say I had anxiety as a child, but I didn't know how to pinpoint it or what the signs were. Mm-hmm. I was the second child out of 4 girls. I was the black sheep.
For some reason, that doesn't shock me. I don't.
Yeah.
That's surprised.
So
well, let's embrace our black sheepness, shall we?
So there's my older sister. She's very, very quiet to herself. Mm-hmm. Then there's me. And then I had 2 younger sisters. They didn't really like to hang out with me. They did their own thing. I was very quiet and reserved and timid. Did not want to be without my mom at all. My dad worked all the time. So we saw him coming and going to work. But yeah, I did not want to be without my mom. I always got picked on. I knew my sisters loved me and cared about me, But looking back as a kid, like I wish I had that sisterly bond when we were younger. And then as we got older, middle school, high school, I always got picked on. I was on high alert. I'm that type, like I will read people. And I was very selective with who I hung out with. And when it came to friends, I would go be friends with the ones that were left out or the ones that weren't the popular kids per se.
AKA black sheep.
Correct.
Yeah.
In turn, I ended up getting picked on a lot. And I would not like stand up for myself. And that's where my younger sister came along. She's a year and 15 months younger than me. She was the loudmouth and she would put people in their place. She's still like that now. So I do love her for that.
There is at some point a guy enters the picture.
Yeah. So my now ex-husband, so we had met when we were 13 and I was head over heels for him.
Charming?
Charming, yes.
Good, handsome?
Yes.
Funny?
Yes.
Intelligent?
Yes.
Kind?
Yes.
How the fuck does this relationship not work out? Those are some awesome qualities. Jesus.
I know, right?
My God. I would have been all over him too.
I know. We had met when we were 13. We were middle school sweethearts, high school sweethearts. There came a point like in the relationship, my dad, he was like, no, he is not the one for you. At what point in time, everything is going to happen. And I was like,
whoa. Your dad, and I'm pretty sure he's a wise man, said this. You didn't believe him. He knew he was right. He was right. But how did he know?
My dad is very, very intuitive.
Wow.
And he just like when he meets people, my dad, he can like sense like if this person is good or bad.
I can't meet your father ever.
Well,
I don't care what your middle child loves about him. He's freaking me out.
He's very like my dad has the kindest heart. But when people like meet him, like my friends as kids, they'd be like, your dad is big and black and intimidating. And I'm like, yeah. So, and then when my husband, well, ex-husband at the time had asked me to marry him, my dad told him, no, you're not going to marry my daughter. No.
Whoa. I don't know about culture and tradition and hearing this. Your father had a say in it? And he told specifically not to you, but to him, no.
Yeah.
Did he ask your father's permission or something?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I like that sort of ritual. I like that kind of courtesy. But your big, black, intimidating father, your words, not mine, without reservation. No.
Yeah. He's like, you are not marrying my daughter.
And there must have been a reason for it. He must have shared a reason.
I mean, I don't know what my dad's reasoning was per se at that time, but looking, forward 15 years and everything that led up to our divorce, I should have listened to my dad. But, being young and 18 and wanting to do my own thing.
18's young, Jasmine. Yeah. 18's young. Wait. I'm going to push here a little bit. Yeah, okay, you should have listened to him. What's the one thing your dad implied or explicitly said as the reason no? Is there anything a little more specific that he said or shared?
He did not have a stable job.
Okay.
He was very flighty. He didn't have a place of his own. So I think that was a big thing. Like, where's my daughter going to live? Yeah. How are you going to support my daughter? And then come to find out I was pregnant. So that was another thing.
Before you got married, you found out you were pregnant. That adds some pressure to the mix. But did your dad know that?
I begged my mom not to tell him. And my mom, she was like, I'm not going to hide that from your dad. As much as you don't want him to know, I'm going to tell him.
I don't have kids, but something about my teenage daughter getting pregnant that still would make me fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to your life, Jasmine. No one gives a shit about mine. Your dad says no. Obviously, Jasmine says, yes, I will marry you.
Yeah. So we got married in November. Mm-hmm. We had the twins in June. I think I was like 7 months pregnant. He had quit his job.
What was his job?
God, I think he was working at a car lot. I had asked him, like at that point, I was super fat and pregnant with twins. I was like, what are we going to do financially? I have no money coming in. I'm high risk. I can't work. And he's like, well, we'll figure it out. lo behold, we didn't. I had the twins beginning of June. I had went back to work when they were like a month old. I had no time to recover. He still was not working. I had went back to work, wasn't making enough money. So we had broke our lease in our the apartment we were living in. I had called my parents, told them what happened, and they said, well, you can come home with the twins,
But he can't.
but your husband ain't coming here.
And by the way, I also know, because of the way you originally framed this, you still got about 10 years with this guy. I know this isn't over.
Yeah. So
I like to know that. I'm getting ahead of it all. All right, here we go.
yeah. So we had the twins. I worked at, well, in North Carolina, you guys probably have it, Kroger.
Yeah, I think we do. I don't. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Up here, it's called Fred Meyer. So I was there for 10 years. In
Okay.
between that time, I had gotten pregnant with our third son. And I told my husband at the time, I was like, I'm really not feeling this. Like, I just think it's better if we separate and I just stay at my parents' house and just help them raise my kids, because this is a lot. And I would just rather be a single mom and do it with my parents and not have you around because you're not stable. I don't want this for my kids.
And I'm going to go out on a very short limb here and say he didn't handle that very well.
He did not. And so at the time he was living at his parents, and, eventually his parents got sick of it. And they were like, you're not staying here either. So he had packed up his car and moved to the other side of Washington to live with his grandma.
On the dry side?
Yes, on the dry side of the state. And
I'm learning.
And so in between that time, I had actually met another guy.
Now there's a twist. Here we go. Here is, and we all remember leading to a suicide attempt in all of this.
Yes. I would say my son was about, I think he was a year. So my twins had just turned 2. My third son was a year. I had met this other guy in between that time. Him and I were talking off and on. My husband he comes back into the picture and he's like, hey, I want to try to work it out. I said, okay, for the sake of the kids, we'll try it. It just was not working. One day I had spiraled and I had all these thoughts going through my head. I was super overwhelmed with the kids and working full time and him not helping. And it was just a lot being 21 with 3 kids under the age of 3.
Oh, yeah. And you said that you dealt with some severe postpartum.
Yeah. And, I knew nothing about that. My doctor had explained it a little bit. He's like, your mood is going to change. Let me prescribe you some medication. The medication, did help a little bit, but I was still super emotional and fucked up. I had taken a bottle of Tylenol.
Are we getting to the attempt now?
Yeah.
Before we do that, I have one question.
Yes.
Maybe slightly sensitive, but we're grown-ups. Black communities, by and large, in my experience in the United States at least, tend to be a little more resistant to going to doctors.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still like that. So I'll go if I'm super, super sick, throwing up constantly or having diarrhea, that's the only reason I'll go. Or if there's broken bones.
Did you get the care you needed in as much as such a thing is available for postpartum? Or did you get a little bit and then sort of dismiss it and it only got worse?
Yeah, I would say I got the bare minimum care. Yeah, I pretty much, went to my checkups for my pregnancy, went to my 6-week checkup, told my doctor, hey, I think something's wrong. I don't know what. Okay, here's some antidepressants. Just take this and we'll follow up, in 8 weeks to see how you're doing.
And you didn't go back. System sucks. And in that case, you didn't give a shit. I mean, that you didn't give a shit, but it wasn't the place for you. And for people who don't know, what does it feel like to be suffering, at least for you, with postpartum?
For me, it was worse than dealing with the suicidal thoughts, honestly, 100%, because your body is still recovering from having kids, and then you're going through physical changes and you just don't know what's going on. You're so tired from not getting sleep. You're taking care of a baby and making sure that their needs are met.
At what point in this whole process do your ideations turn to action?
So I would say it was my husband had come back. He was living with his parents and he would, come over and help the kids. It got to a point, I think my son, he was probably 6 months. I remember I was at work one day and I was just standing in my check stand and I just had a mental breakdown. I was shaking and crying. And I texted my husband. I said, I am leaving. I don't know what's going on, but you need to meet me. And I told him, I said, I'm done. I am going to fucking kill myself. And he's like, what? I said, yeah, I'm done. Come and get me. He had picked me up. And I remember I had a bottle of Tylenol in my purse. I think I took like 14 to 15 pills. And he's sitting in the car and he's like, that's not going to fucking kill you.
Whoa. That's the response?
Yeah. And so he had taken me to the hospital. I remember them like putting me in like this weird, it kind of looked like a jail jumpsuit. And they put me in a room. They left the curtain open. They kept checking on me. They told me I couldn't get out of the bed, could not use the phone. If I was hungry, I could ask them for food and they would bring it to me. They told my husband he couldn't leave. And I remember asking my husband, I was like, I'm not like a fucking criminal. What's going on?
Jasmine, you're not a criminal, but let's be very clear with the audience. And this is me, not Jasmine speaking. You're not treated kind of like a criminal.
They treat you like one.
You are treated as a criminal.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like a trespasser.
Yeah. And like it's fucked up that the hospital system or the health system, they treat people that are suffering mentally like that.
They, I believe, profit from that.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And then they're going to prescribe you medication. Yeah. And they're going to make more money out of it. And then they're going to send you on your merry little way.
And then you're going to get a big bill and maybe your insurance covers some of it. And maybe your credit gets fucked up forever. You know, it's like a big fuck you to all of them. In fact, I'm going to change the name of this goddamn podcast to fuckyoumentalhealthhospitals.com.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But we're already kind of branded, so I got to keep it. How long in the hospital for?
So they released me that day. They had asked me if I wanted to do inpatient treatment. I told them, I said, I don't think that I'm to the point where I want to be in a mental hospital. I have 3 kids at home. I would rather just get outpatient support. So they had given me paperwork. And then the following day, the outpatient hospital had called me and I did the outpatient class for 6 weeks. That helped tremendously at that point.
Oh, great.
I was good. I mean, I still struggled with ideations and anxiety and depression. So that was, 2010. So then my next attempt was 2020.
Hang on, 10 years. Another child comes along.
Yeah.
You're working at Kroger's or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Your husband's still in the picture. I'm imagining it's not a super amazing, beautiful, perfect relationship based on what you've shared, but it's there. I am curious to know what happened with the other guy.
So after the attempt, my husband and I, ex-husband now, I love the guy, but he's my ex.
Ex. Very, very clear. Ex.
Yes. Yeah. My son was like a year. I knew the guy that I, was romantically involved with. Between that time, I think my son was probably 9 months, 10 months. I found out I was pregnant. This was the other guy. This had happened in between the time my husband and I, ex-husband, were split up.
Your husband absolutely knew. I don't know the math. I don't know the math or what's my business, but it's pretty clear.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we were still married, but separated, just not legally. He was dating somebody else. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go get mine too. So I had met my youngest daughter's dad, became pregnant.
Does she have a relationship with her biological father?
For the longest time, she did not. I think I was 6 months pregnant with her, and her dad respectfully had said, I want to be there for my daughter, but you are married. I can't be with somebody who is married. And he said, and I shouldn't have even, been with you while you were still married, even though you were separated. And I said, yeah, well, he was with somebody else. And I said, okay, I respect your decision. And then I had let my husband come back.
Do you think if your husband never wanted to come back, you would have been with this guy still?
Oh yeah.
Wow. All right. So there's a book there. There's a whole book there.
Oh
Or
yeah.
movie. Two, how old was it when you told your daughter the truth?
I think she was 7 or 8. I waited until she got a
Wow.
little older because my husband did come back in the picture.
That's got to be so complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, he was there for her birth.
All right. I would imagine that's challenging.
Yeah, it was a lot to tell her. And my ex-husband, he was like, I don't care. Her dad's not going to be involved in her life. Like he's scum of the earth to me. He can't have anything to do with her. And so me, I'm stuck between the rock and the hard place. Like, do I respect what my husband wants, or do I totally just negate that and let my daughter have a relationship with her dad?
Well, it sounds like a lot of your life in the last X number of years has been sort of stuck between rocks and hard places. Early 20s, attempt 1. 10 years go by. There are kids. There's life.
Yeah.
There's things. Feel free to add to it, but we're not going to get into every day of your life in those 10 years. At some point, you buy a fucking minivan. 2020 is an interesting year for most humans.
COVID. Yeah.
Because in the March, we had COVID.
Yeah.
And I also know in March, or I believe at least in that year or shortly thereafter, you officially split from, and let us be clear again, your ex.
Yeah. So we had all gotten COVID. I think it was like April. And then in May, I noticed my husband like changing. He wouldn't say, I love you. We would go to bed at night. He wouldn't give me a hug. He wouldn't give me a kiss.
Mm.
In the mornings, we would wake up. Like he wouldn't say bye to me when I would go to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I came home one day and I was like, what is going on with you? Like, this isn't you. Like, we've been together since I was 13. We have 3 kids together. What is going on? He's like, oh, nothing. I have a lot going on in my mind. It's not you. And then I go into my room one day and his phone keeps going off.
We all know where this is going, Jasmine.
Yeah. And so I try to grab his phone. He runs in the room and grabs it from me. And then that night, he comes outside and he takes a phone call. He's outside for like an hour. I call my dad and I'm like, Dad, something's not right. Like, he won't let me look at his phone. He's been outside taking phone calls, won't tell me who it is. And my dad was like, I hate to say it, but I have a feeling that he's seeing somebody else.
Yeah. No, here's what I'm thinking. I'm still scared of your dad. Small percent chance that he was just told he has a terminal illness. But 90 something percent chance it's another woman or a man, but probably woman.
I put 2 and 2 together and I asked him, I'm like, hey, is there somebody else in the picture? He's like, to be honest with you, yeah. He's like, I'm not happy. I don't want to be with you. And he's like, I've been talking to this girl. We grew up with this girl in the same church. She's always had it out for him. She had bought him a plane ticket to go to Oklahoma.
Is that where she lives?
Yes. And so he tells me, he's like, I don't want to be with you.
When was he gonna tell you this, Jasmine?
Probably never.
How long was he with her before you found out?
I want to say they were talking probably for like 2 months. I can't say anything because, my husband and we were separated and I did get pregnant from somebody else. I mean, granted, we were separated off and on. But she, as a woman, should have had enough respect to say, hey,
marriage.
You're married. Let's do this the right way.
The irony here also is that I believe the community you all met at is a church. And if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know a lot about religion or churches, I'm just a barely Jewish guy from New York. There are certain rituals, rules, even laws or guidelines you're supposed to honor and respect. She broke one. She's human.
Yeah, that's where
she went in for the fucking jugular and she got it.
She did. And so that night he had packed his stuff and I said, if you walk out that door, I just want you to know you ain't coming back. I'm filing for divorce and you ain't taking my kids. So he had went to stay at his brother's and his brother had told him, he's like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, you need to think about your wife and your kids. Like, this is going to change everything.
Yeah.
And he was like, nope, I'm sure. He had left that morning. I was like distraught, shooken up. I didn't tell my kids for at least a month. I told them that we had gotten in an argument and he's staying at his parents.
I bet they knew.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, my kids are very smart. I can't lie. They did know, but I just didn't have the heart to tell them.
Tough spot.
I put off the divorce for a while. We're still in lockdown. I was still work at the time because I worked in healthcare.
Oh, and you're wearing the damn mask every fucking day. And you've got 4 kids and the husband who we think is in Oklahoma somewhere right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's there.
And you're saying I can't say her name, but why not?
I don't know. I mean, like when I say her name, it just like I have so much anger.
Well, why can't I use the name on the podcast?
Oh, no, you can. You can.
Is there something I get sued for by using a real name? I don't know.
No, I think I'm just scared. Like, what if she hears this? But then I'm like, you know what? Honestly, she's a bitch and I don't care. So feel free to use her name. We can use my ex-husband's name too. His name is Kyle and he's a fucking scumbag.
You also said you still love him.
I mean, I do love him. He did give me 3 beautiful children.
Yeah.
We met when we were 13.
Yeah.
So the thing that made me have my second attempt, I had found out my sister-in-law had called me and she said, this is going to be really hard for me to tell you. I need you to sit down. And I said, what? She goes, I just want you to know that Kyle and Cheyenne are having a baby. It literally felt like a knife through my chest. And then I thought, I was like, oh my God, this is what he felt like when I told him I was pregnant from somebody else. Like,
interesting that you thought that way. That's quite mature of you, really.
Yeah. I was like, that pain like fucking hurts. That night, my mom had taken my kids because I told her, I was like, I need to breathe. Like, I found out my ex-husband is having a baby. Like, I just need to breathe. Can you take my kids? She said, okay, I'll come get them. That night I had, go ahead.
Did you already know what you were going to do that night? Or was it a little bit more like chaotic, frenzied, impulsive?
Oh no, I knew.
So your mom picks up the kids, no idea what's about to happen this night.
Yeah, no idea.
You're not about to tell her.
Oh no, absolutely not. So I had taken a belt and I like tightened it super tight around my neck. And when I got to the point where I started blacking out, I snapped it from my neck.
Why?
Because I knew I didn't want to go. I just wanted, in that moment, I wanted the pain to end.
You didn't want to die and you didn't. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you were able to physically do it because sometimes it's too late to physically undo that. Were you home? Where were you?
I was up in my room, sitting on my bed.
What's it like to have that happen where you are that close to maybe dying and then all of a sudden you're just like conscious and back sitting on the same bed you've sat on for years, same fucking wallpaper, like what's that like?
I think in the moment it's like, fuck, why didn't I go through with it? And then on the same token, it's like, thank God that I'm still here.
Interesting sort of conflicting things. I'm going to guess that more people know about the first attempt than the second attempt.
Yeah, people know about the first attempt, but not the second and the third.
Hang on. The second one, after that happens, do you have any, I'm not asking you to show me, is there any marks?
No, it's been a long time. Yeah, but no, there's no marks.
You're young, so you heal quickly. I'm not bitter. Okay, whatever. Your kids are at your mom's. You have this attempt. You stop. What happens then? Oh, mom, just bring the kids back.
So I hid it for a little bit from my mom. And then I think it was like a week and a half, I was just really distraught. And I had actually went to work and wrote, I think it was a week and a day after, I had wrote a suicide note after the fact.
What do you think that was about?
I just think I was just still like so distraught and hurt from one, me kicking my husband out, and 2, knowing it was the end of my marriage.
Did you kick him out really? Or did you just do the thing that he's asking you to do?
Well, I did the thing that I asked him to do. But then when I tell him, if you walk out that door, you're not coming back. That's where it felt like I was kicking him out.
Fair. Okay. So attempt number 2, you keep it quiet. You tell your mom. How long does it take to tell your mom? And does your dad ever find out the same dad who said, don't marry the guy? And it turns out this guy leaves and is now having a child.
She's 8 years younger than my ex-husband and I. So after the second attempt, I had written the letter.
Yeah.
I remember printing it out. And then I was in tears, distraught. I had ripped it up. I called my mom and I said, Mom, I don't know what to do. I told her, I said, I tried to kill myself a week ago. I wrote a suicide note after She goes, well, what did you say in the note? Basically in the note, all I said was, Mom, I love you. I'm sorry. Please do not give my kids to Kyle. I want you and Dad to have them. So do whatever you need to do.
So this isn't just a post-suicide attempt note. This is a post-suicide attempt note, pre-suicide attempt note. It's just the third one's coming soon. How does she respond when her daughter says that to her?
So my mom had told me, she said, I know exactly what you're going through. She said, when you kids were little, she had never told me up until that point.
Mm-hmm.
She said, when you kids were little and your dad was working and it was just me taking care of you guys while your dad was bringing the money. She said, I was in deep, dark depression for 5 years. And she said, I never wrote a suicide note, but there were days where I wanted to just end my life. And she said, the only thing that kept me going was you kids. And then she said, all I remember was I prayed one day and I said, God, you're going to have to fix something in my life or I'm going out. And she said that from that moment on, like everything changed.
Your mother has 4 children.
Yes.
And you were the reason she was able to stay alive.
Yeah.
About 45 minutes ago, you told me you have 4 children and they are the reason you're alive.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure you've seen these patterns. At that time, your mother prayed to God and something happened. She's obviously still here. Is that also a pattern that happens? Because I also know you try again. So what goes on in those moments after that note is written, but to the third attempt?
Right before the third attempt, I had filed for divorce. It became final. I stayed single for probably about 6 months. And then I had met this guy on Facebook dating.
Where are we at now? Is it 2022? Where are we?
So it's beginning of 2022 to the end of 2022.
You're dating Facebook guy.
Yeah. So I let him move into my house. This was probably, I want to say he moved in after a month of dating.
What do your kids say?
My youngest daughter, she was like, look, Mom, she's like, I know I'm only 11, but 1, you don't need a relationship. And 2, there's something weird with this guy.
I love her.
Yeah, I should, have looked at the red flags, but I didn't. So he moves in, blows out my transmission in my first car, starts stealing money from my account, my bank account.
Oh, shit.
Doesn't go to work. Then I end up buying another car.
Was there abuse?
Yes. Mental and physical. The physical abuse, I would say that started probably 6 months into the relationship. And he had gotten mad at me because I had a friend who was a personal trainer and I would go to the gym with him and work out. Like we were friends. He would come over, like see me and my kids and hang out. So he had texted my phone one night and I grabbed my phone to text him. And my ex-boyfriend at the time said, I don't know what the fuck you think you're doing texting another man. And I had told him, 1, I am not married to you.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, no man is going to tell me what I can and can't do, especially when you don't put a ring on my finger. He had pushed me down on the bed and choked me until the point I blacked out. The abuse kept continuing. I had kicked him out. He went to jail. I let him come back. It happened again.
It almost never doesn't happen again.
Yeah. And then the third time, which was my last straw, I had got up to get ready for work and I was in the shower and my daughter was in the bathroom using the toilet. And I get out of the shower. I go into my room and he said, why the fuck is your daughter in the bathroom? And I said, 1, I was in the shower. 2, if she wants to use the toilet when I'm in the shower, my daughter is more than welcome to come in there. So I'm starting to get dressed. He picks up my bag of books and I have like 60 books in my big box. He throws it at my window, shatters my bedroom window, called me a hoe and a bitch. And then I kick him out. I said, that's it. Don't you ever fucking come back again. We are done. So this was December 21st, to be exact.
This is like a month ago.
Yeah. So my mom had changed my lock. She said, don't you let him come back.
Yeah.
She stayed with me. I think it was 4 days she stayed with me. And then my dad would drive by every now and then to make sure the kids and I were okay. Then one morning at like 5 o'clock, I hear a knock on the door. And I thought it was my daughter because her best friend lives right around the corner. And normally if she gets up early, she'll come home.
This is where in the movie you get killed.
So I open the door and I see a hand go through my door. And I'm like, oh shit, that's not my daughter's hand. So I push the door shut and I couldn't shut it all the way. He pushes it and he makes his way in and I'm pushed up against the wall and he's hallucinating, saying that there's people outside with guns.
Oh, he might be dealing with some serious mental illness challenges himself.
Yeah. And so I was like, look, I don't care. Like, get the fuck out. My 3 older kids wake up. They're terrified. They start calling my mom. And my mom, she's like, call the cops and just let him stay. And she's like, just whispering so he can't hear. And I'm like, Mom, are you sure? She's like, yes, call the cops and just let him stay and just talk to him like everything is normal. So I talked to him and I'm like, hey, come in my room, sit down. Like, let's just talk and figure out what's going on. My son shuts the door in his room, calls the cops, and I'm just like calming down my ex-boyfriend. 30 minutes later, the cops come and arrest him. Thank God. He was in jail he just got out of jail like a week ago. Yeah. He had called me like every day when he was in jail. I did not answer.
Well, fuck Jasmine, for fuck's sake, could he just come bashing through the goddamn window of your minivan right now?
Yeah. I mean, he probably could. So I think it was December. Oh God, what day was it? That day. It was that day that he had broken. Well, I shouldn't say broken in because I opened the door. I had went to work. I was like super distraught. Like I was crying at work. I couldn't function. My boss, she said, you know what? You just need to go home. You just need to regroup, take a mental health day. So I came home. It was around noon. My kids were in the hallway talking. I threw my purse down, grabbed a belt, started putting it around my neck. My daughter saw me. She started screaming and she was like, Mom, you're not going to do that. Right before I got the belt tight, she pulled it off my neck.
Did you want to die then? That feels different.
No, I think that was more like spur of the moment. My emotions were all over the place and I couldn't think.
That must be a bonding experience, a unique sort of bonding experience.
Yeah.
That was what, 3-4 weeks ago?
It was December 21st.
When did you first put suicide into your little phone or whatever?
I think it was, I want to say the 26th or the 27th.
So you try to end your life for a third time. That doesn't happen. It doesn't sound like you go to a hospital. The guy's in jail. Your kids are at home. 5 days later, you're like, are there other people out there I want to find?
Yeah.
And then you heard Courtney in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And then you got hooked. Your words, not mine.
Yeah.
And now your kids sometimes make fun of you for that.
Yeah.
Among other things, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Good. How many people know we're talking?
Only my mom.
Well, and your kids.
Yeah, and my kids.
Did you keep the note?
No.
You tried to end your life for the third time on the 21st. Have you thought about it since?
No.
You've already told me you're going to make it to 60 or more.
Oh, yeah.
How have things changed so quickly in such a short period of time?
1, getting the restraining order against my ex-boyfriend and eliminating that from my life. 2, working better to co-parent with my ex-husband. And 3, like in those moments where I'm just very, very like overwhelmed, I call my mom instantly.
No therapy, no medication.
I am on medication. The therapy, it's just hard to get a therapist. And I feel like if you're not like to the point where you're like extremely like suicidal or struggling with something, they won't take the time to get you in.
And even if they do, in that case, it's not usually very good.
Yeah.
I have the weirdest question I might ever ask anyone.
Okay.
Do you actually wear the belt you used to try to kill yourself twice?
One of them, yes. But it's only with 2 pairs of pants. That's it.
Ooh, how many people do you have in your life who if you're having a really difficult day and you might even bring up the S word, they can handle it, talk to you and feel okay about it?
So my youngest daughter's dad, him and I, he does have a girlfriend, but even when I was with my husband, like he's always been there for me no matter what.
This is a Disney ending. It's not there yet, but it might be in 2023, Jasmine.
And one of my mom's sister, my aunt, she has dealt with mental health issues forever, but she came out the other side. So she is also one of my other biggest supports.
What is one thing, if anything, that other than your kids, that actually makes you feel like I'm having a shitty day and I feel a little better now? If anything.
Being around my friends at work and my dog.
Oh, what kind of dog do you have?
She is pit bull, black lab, and German shepherd.
I'm not fucking with that dog. Yeah, I'm more afraid of him than your dad. Jesus Christ. You pick the tough ones, or they pick you.
They do.
More questions, I think. And that is it. One, do you believe in God?
Yes.
What do you think God would have said to you about him, whatever we'll just call God, about your attempts, particularly if you had completed any of them?
Well, one, I would say he would accept me into heaven. And here is why. Because my parents have always taught me, once you ask Jesus into your heart, there's nothing that is going to separate you from heaven. Sin is a sin, period. So let's say I'm to kill myself. Joe Schmo down the street who murdered his ex-girlfriend, last week, and he asked Jesus into his heart, whatever sins he committed, that's between him and God. That's for nobody else to judge. And I do know that God would tell me, I love you. Whatever hurt you're going through, you can bring it to me and I will be there and walk with you through it. And my dad is also a pastor too. So. Oh,
this didn't come up until the very end of the conversation. Interesting. Not surprised. Okay. I got a mental image and I'm almost sure I'm right. I swear to God, I think I'm almost exactly right. I know I'm going to come off as almost some weird white racist dude. I don't think I am. I just think I'm almost 100% sure I know what your dad looks and sounds like. Are there any myths around any of this stuff you want to call bullshit on?
That suicide is selfish. It's not. Like in the moment, like when somebody is so dark and the pain is just unbearable and they feel like that's the only way out, that's what they're going to do. In that moment, they're not thinking about their mom or their dad or their kids. They're thinking about how they're going to end their pain.
Could you even argue that it's selfless? Not only not selfish, but sometimes the opposite of that.
I would, yeah.
What color is your minivan?
It's gray.
I'm having a hard time not judging right now. You're pleasant, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you briefly with your children. You've been great and bold and brave and honest and candid and all sorts of other things. But you're in a fucking gray minivan. It's one of the, where I'm coming from, Jasmine. I don't want to sound like a privileged asshole.
Everybody, like all my friends are like, why don't you get an SUV? I'm like, I have a buttload of kids. I always have at least one or two extra. And the minivan just makes logical sense.
Hey, practical matters. Be practical. What else would you like to add?
I just want the people out there that are struggling to know, one, that it's okay to not be okay. The dark days are not going to last forever. And if you are still alive and breathing, that there is a purpose for you here. And it may take you a while to find it, but eventually one day you will.
Now, if somebody doesn't believe in God and doesn't have any kids, would you say the same thing to them?
I would.
Okay. I'm glad we got to talk.
Me too. I mean, I know life is always going to come with challenges, but it is good to be alive. And there's always light at the end of the tunnel. You have to look for that little bit of hope.
And you have 4 lights in a tunnel called your home now waiting for you. So let them love on their mother. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
And we'll connect soon, Jasmine. Have a very nice day, I hope.
You as well. Thank you.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye.
As always, thanks so much for listening and all of your support. And special thanks to Jasmine up near the North Pole in Washington. Thank you, Jasmine. If you are a suicide attempt survivor and you'd like to talk, please reach out. hello@suicidenoted.com, on Facebook or Twitter @suicidenoted, and check the show notes for, among other things, more information about our membership. We would love and could use your support. And that is all for episode number 154. Stay strong. Do the best you can. I'll talk to you soon.